My name is Jen, and I'm going to probably ramble here for a bit, and I want to apologize about that. I've been trying to make this video or a similar video or talk about the situation I've been in for over 2 years now. I've also been trying to find attorneys for over 2 years now for very real legal situations that I've had. Unfortunately, as ridiculous as this may sound to certain people, this is very, very much true. There may have been individuals using their spiritual and religious beliefs to either pray or cast spells or try and intentionally prevent me from obtaining legal assistance by individuals who don't know me, who think I'm someone else, who were fantasizing about a person who doesn't exist. And I'm saying that because some of the individuals involved, well, I've been stuck in what started as a human trafficking situation since 2019. And before I begin, because I am going to ramble, I'm going to let you know I'm a medical cannabis patient. And this has been one of my biggest issues, is that while I'm off of it right now, it's at the point with my PTSD and everything that's going on that off of it, when I have when I have a flare, it's not that I'm not here, it's that I have aphasia and I can't. So I just bear with me. I am using the medical cannabis to try and help, but I may be all over the place, so I apologize. And this is a very serious situation, so I want to be very clear that when I use my medical cannabis, I only ever use it if I'm not going to be working. First off, like, I did not smoke cannabis or really do any drugs at all, but I mean, it's not a drug, so but I didn't use cannabis prior to 2015, so very few people have ever seen me high. And it's not something I can function on while I'm working. Like, it's pretty much I use it and then I'm like done for the day, or at least until I sleep it off. And then, or for a while I was waking up at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, using it, meditating, and then going to work at like 8 o'clock, and so it would have 6 hours of meditation, and I was fine. I don't do that anymore because of what has happened since I moved into this house. But I've been in what started as a labor trafficking situation since towards the end of 2019, and I need to talk about how I got here, what was going on in my life at that point in time, why certain things happened. Like, sorry, I'm gonna need a moment, and I'm gonna need to blow my nose, so 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So, there are a lot of things I need to talk about. I guess I need to focus. So let me start with an introduction about myself. So my name is Jen. I had done hair and makeup for 10 years prior to leaving that industry to start a life with my second husband. Now, something I need to talk about myself for a moment is that essentially this is going to be, and it seems that this is a concept that is difficult for a lot of people, at least where I live, or the people who had been involved in my life at the particular point that everything occurred were more on the conservative side, and I'm not. And I think that contributed to a lot of the problems that I've been having is that I have been fighting for my freedom when the people who were in my life are actually all against individuals like myself having freedom. So, one second. So, okay, here we go. I had, been raised in a very conservative Christian family. Not like ultra conservative, militant, but somewhat still very conservative Christian family that may be considered cult-like to some people, as far as the psychology and the manipulation that goes, at least with my home life and childhood. I need to explain this because essentially in 2001 to 2002, I dated someone. He was my first boyfriend. Like, I wasn't really allowed to date. I think I had like a boyfriend over the phone for a year. We would go see movies and stuff with each other like once a month. That in middle school, that doesn't count. My first real boyfriend, his name was Phil. I had been a freshman in high school, and I was set up on a blind date by a stranger, a guy in school I had never met before, who just saw a patch on my backpack and liked it and set me up on a blind date. Phil had actually saved me from human trafficking back in 2000. It would have been either the end, because we connected, so it was 2001, January 2001 it would have been. I had been talking to a man on Instant Messenger. His name was Leif. He lived in Germany, and he would actually call me in the middle of the night after my parents went to sleep to have phone sex with me. I was 15. But he had told me he was going to rescue me from my parents and fly me out of the country and all this. And I met Phil. And I remember getting ready for the first date was a blind date where we all played pool. Excuse me. The second date was dinner. And it was at the Union Hotel, which I don't know if anyone knows the Union Hotel. He used to work there. His mom also used to work there, but the Union Hotel is the hotel directly across the street from the courthouse where the Lindbergh trial was held. I'm very thirsty right now. So there's a lot of history, a lot of ghosts there. But no, I remember I was getting dressed for the date, and I was talking to Leif on Instant Messenger, and I told him I was going out on a date, and he was like, "But you're my girlfriend. Either you take this seriously or we're over." And I remember thinking to myself, well, I guess we're over. and Phil actually saved me from that situation, because it was getting to the point where this guy was just like, "No, I'll rescue you from your family," and I'm very thankful that that didn't happen. Anyway, Phil and I we were together for a year. I loved him very, very deeply, and he committed suicide in 2002. He had been self-medicating schizophrenia with heroin for many years, snorting it only. He did not use needles, and I want to be very clear. I myself have never used, but I am respectful of everyone else's journeys, individual journeys, and when he and I met, I understood that, like, he didn't talk to me about it specifically. I remember we went to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and, like, this was a point in time where movies like that were not in every theater. We had to drive, like, an hour out of the way to a special movie theater to see it. And I remember him asking me for a piece of gum and wanting, like, I had a Dentine ice pack, and just asking for the whole pack, and looking over and seeing him do, like, a bump off the pack in the back of the movie theater, and I was just like, oh. As I didn't know what it was, but I have not touched it myself. I'm just sharing this because he he had attempted suicide once before 2002, with the end of 2001, and that's what landed him in rehab. And then he did attempt it a second time. And this is really important to mention, because when I moved into the, I ended up in this property. Again, I was lured here with a promise of work. I had very limited options at the time, but I did have other options, and I kept asking the landlord specific questions. Like, he was intentionally stringing me along, almost. It seems that way, to try and, like, put me in a position where I had no other options, and that's where it got. Because all of my money was being spent on renting a car and putting my dog in doggy daycare so that I could continue to work while I was in this transitional period of homelessness after, like, I fled a situation where I called my mom. I had been married to my second husband, and I fled. No alimony. He had fucked with my head so much I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to talk. I didn't think I had legal rights. He abandoned me while I was very, very medically ill, and then started to psychologically, emotionally, spiritually attack me for, like, asking for help. Like, he was mad at me that he started having emotions. He was mad at me for wanting support to get back on my feet, and, like, he's like, I'm paying your bills. Yes, you're paying my bills, but if I'm trying to get myself to a point where I can pay my bills, and you like, mad at me for asking for help getting there, despite my being your wife. Like, you're leaving me. I lost 50 pounds and you didn't notice, and you're just leaving me to die, and then mad at me when I'm trying to ask for help to not. So I didn't know my legal rights, and my parents' religious and political beliefs, at least, they might not believe it, but their actions are what matters. They don't really believe that I have rights, or that I'm a human. I am, and I have rights. I needed an attorney, and my mom bought herself a house, which is fine. She needed a house. But it was almost like she forgot why I was moving in with her, and tried to immediately take control of my finances, immediately take control of my life, and it was just like, I don't think you understand what's going on in this situation. And I had tried to ignore it, and had blinders on, because essentially her and her husband are very conservative Christian, and I am not them. And I'm the kind of person that they, in their personal, private conversations, they see as an enemy, but to my face, they tell me otherwise. So I had been trying to ask for help with a situation with them since I moved into the house, and people were just, like, dismissing me, because it was almost like they just didn't believe reality. Anyway, I had addressed their racism, and my mom threatened my life, and then followed through with it. And a bunch of people who don't know me, like, they know me, but they don't know they aren't close enough with me to fully know me. People who fully know me are like, there are like 5 of them. And I say that because I have been an introvert most of my life, not by choice, but, well, initially not by choice, but the majority of people who had been, like, friends with me on social media are not my friends. They're primarily people who added me in passing, or I've met through exes, or were business contacts. Now, I'm saying that because someone who had become friends with me after I moved home from Toronto and after my first divorce, got mad at me in 2019. Basically, I couldn't afford to attend her wedding. She and her fiance allowed me to stay at his house for like 2 weeks while I was trying to find apartments. And they were still wedding planning, and she was very stressed. And I expressed to him I was concerned that I might contribute to, I might be causing some damage to the relationship. And then I expressed to her, like, I couldn't afford to attend her wedding. I didn't have a car. She doesn't know anything about my financial situation. She doesn't know that my first marriage, I fled and I filed for bankruptcy as opposed to trying to get repayment for all of the debt that I accrued because of my ex, because I would not have had that debt without him, and I could actually prove it. And he actually may have taken advantage of me for a free trip to Canada, because basically I had told him when we met that I was not putting my life on hold for anyone else anymore, and that I was moving to Canada to attend school, and like a couple weeks later he proposed to me. My mom made me marry him. I need to be very clear about that. His mother's was like freaking out about us planning a wedding. I didn't want to marry him, but I was pretty much told that I wasn't going to school living with a man unmarried. However, had that not been said, I would have, like, he and I would have been broken up 3 weeks before our wedding because he was cheating on me. So, like, you need to understand that, like, I was basically raised that I don't have any rights, and it got to a point where the only way to survive was just to give in to my mom, and it got to a point where I basically just married my first husband to make my mom happy, even though I myself didn't want to marry him. And after I moved into this house, I had the opportunity, because I had been seeing someone on and off. It wasn't serious. I care for this person very deeply, but like, had it progressed to be serious, that's one thing. It did not. But it's probably a good thing, because I did need, I've never had a prolonged period of singleness, and so I've had the opportunity to have that prolonged period of singleness. Again, I still do care for that person. That is a very separate situation. So I want to point that out. I hadn't had like a prolonged period of singleness. I had gone from relationship to relationship as a serial monogamist, not because I wanted to necessarily, but because I didn't ever properly grieve. And that's something that I need to say, because grief is one of those things. Like, another reason I married my first husband was grief. My mom had just lost her brother and his wife in a plane crash. I had lost my aunt and uncle. And if they hadn't died, I absolutely would not have married my ex. But anyway, so and it also has to be known that prior to dating my ex, I ended up in a relationship with a man who had groomed me from, I'd been 9 years old, and he was 17 when we met. And it was a very abusive relationship, and I had escaped that. And my first husband actually had been stalking me on MySpace and waited until my account said that I was single. And then he asked me if I wanted to go out to a bar, and I told him I didn't drink and I didn't like going out to bars because I was terrified of my ex. And Rich, my first husband, asked me a second time if I wanted to go out on a date to a bar with him. And you need to understand that the relationship I had just left, my ex made sure he forced it in my head that I was never safe, that I was not allowed, I could not say no. I would go to the bathroom or go into a room and lock a door behind me, and he would be right behind me, pick the lock, close the door and lock it behind him, and basically just let me know I was not safe, and he needed to remind me that he would always follow me. He would break through every door. I could not hide myself from him. I could not say no. And that was where I was at when I met my first husband. And I had told him no, and he just asked, like, I remember meeting him and seeing him in person and just thinking, well, he's not Eric. I guess this is okay. Like, I wasn't even physically attracted to him. I felt like I had no choice. Had I had the support and friends, support that I needed at that time, instead of like family member, like I tried to explain the relationship to family members, and was basically told like that it was love, that the abuse that I was going through was actually love, and I should be happy. It's not love. Abuse is not love. I'm saying this because that particular individual ended up later on having a child with my first husband's cousin. And whether or not he stalked her through me, or if he met her separately, I don't know. But I had warned my ex when I first saw on Facebook that the other one had been dating his cousin. And essentially, I was told, like, they don't talk to her anymore, so that was it. But he doesn't know anything about me. He also released, he put nude photos of me on the internet without my consent many years ago. He eventually took them off, but he did also trade them with people he had wanted to have sex with. So I don't know who's seen nude photos of me. But the majority of them were sent without my consent. I'm saying this because I fled my mother and her husband. I called them out on the racism. I was told that I was wrong. My mom attacked me, threatened my life, screams to just go ahead and try to leave, essentially. Go ahead and try. Try to leave her. Just go ahead and try. And I did. I did try to leave her, and she used the police to hold me hostage in my house. She would not leave me alone. She would not stop harassing me. She would not stop. Not good. And I remember I had a stroke in 2019, and I moved into this house. This house is very haunted. There are certain things that happens to me that I cannot discuss in video, but this house is very haunted, and I'm on my medical cannabis. I just, put another bowl. One of the things I noticed after I moved in was, at first I was okay with my medical cannabis, but then I put a post on Instagram about how I was finally safe to start every day with cannabis and coffee, and the post was basically about, prior to living with my mom, so this is my legally prescribed medication that I require for specific purposes, and prior to living with my mom, my ex-husband actually started attacking me because I was on it. Like, he hated me for being on it. Like, he thought I was faking being sick just to be high, and that's not the case. And people should and need to understand that he at one point basically told me he was marrying me to put me on his health insurance. So, telling me that I'm faking being sick despite the fact that he only married me to get me on his health insurance, like, why are you attacking? He just didn't like that I was on it. And, he just didn't believe it. And so, that I was sick. And, like, my mom, I don't think she understands that it's medicine as well. And he would actually, like, wait to attack me until I was on it. So, anyway, I lost my train of thought, and this is why it's important to see. So I'm gonna finish this, and I'm gonna try and start talking about. And again, like I said, I'm very different when I'm on it versus off of it, and so I'm gonna talk about this now, and then I think I might make an intro while I'm off of it later. I might not. But I will. But let me talk about the human trafficking situation. Oh yeah, so I had started asking people for help. That's where I was going. But I think that the combination of the fact that there were things going on that I was at the time unable to discuss with certain people. There were people stalking me, including the woman my second ex, might have been having an affair with. There were people stalking me, including people that owe my second ex money. Like, he just wanted to own me. I gave up an entire life for him. A lot of my friends, a 10-year career. I gave up so much for him because, again, I had just left an abusive relationship. So when I moved home from Toronto, I only did so because an ex of mine had convinced me that we were moving to Portland. Basically, I separated from my first husband, and I was in a really raw place emotionally, and I reconnected with an ex, and I made a big mistake. I moved back to the United States. Had we not reconnected, I would still be in Canada. I would have had my cancer surgery in Canada because I was on a television show in Canada, and you can actually see the tumor on the show. But no, I would still be in Canada. I would not have come back to the United States. Sorry, take my medication, I guess. So, I had been working at a software company prior to separating from my second ex-husband. Now, when I started at this company, my PTSD was so bad. It took me a while to kind of re-socialize and reacclimate. Like, I had been going to concerts every week to try and relearn social skills. My ex, it was my therapy. It was my weekly therapy. Like, to people watching my life on social media, it might have looked like something else because I was going to a concert once a week. No, it was my therapy, and like $35 for a session of therapy for it's very affordable therapy. And I need to explain that because that's what it was for me, was therapy. And my ex got really mad at me because essentially I was like living life when he just wanted me to, like, he just wanted to own me. Like, we left the courthouse, and that's what he told me, was that he legally owned me. Hi, Stormy. Good morning. I love you so much. Yes, I do. Okay. So, in 2019, there were a series of events that occurred that are important to understand. I'm not going to discuss them right now, but they are important to understand. And it is important to understand that I likely had a stroke in 2019 that was misdiagnosed and mistreated by the hospital. And my former employers were well aware of this. In fact, my coworker was aware, and I have or had at one point a whistleblower case, and I don't care about money from them regarding, like, that's not what it is. I have my own shit going on. I can always, I've been of the mind I can always work to make more money. There is a very good possibility that several people did something to try and kill me, whether they realize it or not, because they didn't know what was going on in my life and because they don't know me. or quite possibly to discredit my brother who has a cybersecurity company. Um, I don't know. It could also have had to do with the fact that in 2019 I decided to release a video while I was homeless that discussed alternative high schools. I attended one almost 20 years ago. But the video was not ever intended to be a video. It was I had been working on a autobiography as a form of self-reflective therapy, and that's what it was meant to be, an autobiography, like just, again, therapy. But I had, while I was homeless, so I am an intuitive medium, which is something I haven't really discussed with a lot of people, because of the way in which I was raised and how my mother and my dad, like, both view individuals who are intuitive, who are mediums, who are psychics. They view all that as, like, or at least one point in time did view that sort of thing as satanic, without, like, recognizing that it's really just human evolution to have, you know, certain abilities, like ESP or telepathy, things of that nature. Anyway, sorry, just, again, remember I'm on this, so now I'm calming myself down. I had fled my mom's. I ended up, one person said they were going to help me. I miscommunicate often, and it's because I did not ever really properly learn how to communicate, because I was not ever really allowed to be myself. It is when I am myself that people start attacking me. Often it is when I am passionate about things that people start attacking me. And it's essentially like, I had released a video in 2019 where I had asked someone I was friends with as a child if she wanted to share a portion of her life story through my video. I thought it would be therapeutic for her. She and I have not been friends in many, many years. We've remained friendly, but we've not been friends. So I was unaware of that individual's mental health status, what was going on in their life at the time, and other things. But she does not know me. We barely, we hung out as kids, at after school care, and then, because we were in close proximity to each other's homes. But we really were not as close as a lot of people think, and I am very sorry about what was going on in her life, but it's no excuse for, well, certain things happened, and this particular individual made some comments that she essentially threatened me and or the person I had been seeing on and off for 2 years. And by threatening that person, it also threatens their entire family. And that's not okay. Especially since she doesn't even know who he was. She just had basically what she was going through at that particular point in time is something that is not mine to talk about. But she had asked me if I ever considered having children, and I told her yes, with one person, and her response was, "Oh, you're never going to see him again." And she said that after she went through my belongings and talked about kind of what she liked for herself, and almost like she thought she was moving in and getting my stuff. she then told me she had borderline personality disorder, but described and acted like she had schizophrenia. So I'm concerned. Now, she also is not supposed to drink on her medication, and she had been drinking that day with her sister and her mother first, and then we went out to dinner, and she actually was complaining that the drinks weren't strong enough. But no, like, she might have done something really bad. Especially, she had mentioned my ex, and that she liked me with him. And I don't think she understands that I would not have moved home from Canada. That he didn't want me. That he abandoned me during cancer because he couldn't handle it. That he owes me tens of thousands of dollars because he thought I had money and was just spending all of my money, but really I was racking up debt on credit cards because he wanted things. That he went on tour and took his contact lens off of his eyeball and gave it to a porn star because she needed a contact, and he like toured with one contact for the remainder of that tour while I was at home dealing with cancer treatments. Like, no, why? She asked me if I was still friends with, or why I didn't hang out with certain people who have cut out of my life for like 20 years. It was almost like I may have triggered someone who thinks they can manipulate a situation, but she didn't know. She might have been mad that I was working. I don't know what was going on. I sincerely hope not, but what was concerning was that she seemed upset that I was anti-racist, because she equated her being not racist to having, and I'm not even kidding, what she said was she had fucked Black Rob, the only black guy in town. And basically, I don't know if she was talking about the rapper, because I'm not like into popular music. I don't know if that, or if that's just what she was calling him. But first off, our area, he didn't go to school with us, or at least not me. I've never met him. I don't know her. The majority of her exes I don't know. I think I know about 3 of them. I know John, I know Jeff, I know Tim. That's it. Those are the exes that I know. So anyone, like, I sincerely think that she has forgotten that we are not as close, because she might have tried to do, not understood that I fled a threat on my life, and she may have actually herself also tried to kill me. Whether she realized, I don't know, but a lot of people, like, I have whistleblower case against my former employers because they were trying to, like, explain. I had been trying to explain certain things to them. I would bring stuff up to the office manager, and then I would bring stuff up to them, and I kept being dismissed. And then I kept bringing this issue with one of our employees who I would have fired immediately because these were all fireable offenses and quite possibly, you know, in some cases breaking the law, excusing her behavior by essentially saying she might have a sugar daddy. And the thing is, if they're allowing her to get away with breaking the law or with screwing over other, like, violating their own policies because she's sugaring, is it because she's doing so to benefit them and they're making money off her? Because in a sense that would be prostitution. So what, while, you know, her, if she's sugaring for herself, that's fine, but if she's doing so and they're benefiting from it, that's another story. Especially since this particular reporter, I was instructed to charge her husband's law firm twice, like to charge double, not twice, but to the page rate double amount because they could afford it. Well, a lot of these law firms, it's not that they can afford, they charge their clients. What, like, there are a lot of things. it's almost like I was being attacked. There are laws in place regarding retaliation, and it was almost like I was being attacked not just for the fact that I left and had this whistleblower case, but because of the guy I had been seeing. Because my former employers also knew about it too, and there was just weird stuff going on. Sorry, I have cat hair on my nose. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on, but I need to like be very serious and make sure that people understand, like, when I was brought into their company. It's a court reporting agency. I was brought into the company to take over position and just kind of like, I'm sorry, again, I'm having issue with words. Again, so I'm an empath. I was not under the influence at work. The main person that I worked with in the office was an office manager who and I'm not making accusations. She is an alcoholic, or at least was an alcoholic when I worked there. I can say that because she exhibited symptoms of withdrawal. She would constantly talk about how she needed a drink, and at least at one point in time, alcohol, like a day a drink, was considered alcoholism, or a drink a day. A drink a day was considered alcoholism. There were laws at one point in time where, like, if you were a single adult with a minor, you yourself, you needed another adult in the home in order to drink. Otherwise, it was child abuse. It would be neglect. There were laws in place at one particular point in time regarding alcohol, and like, people forget because it becomes so ingrained in our society as just like a normal thing. Everything we take impacts our decision-making skills. Again, this includes prescription medication, and whether it be chemical or natural, the same thing applies. Anyway, so I don't remember where I was going. Oh yeah, so I don't drink. Prior to my deciding not to drink last year, like ever again last year, or 2 years ago at this point, I had very, very, very seldom drink. Right after I started that job, I had a friend take me out, and as an empath, like, I had just been raped. So I did drink that night. I don't think I drank we were out for like 5 hours. I think I had 4 or 5 drinks. I don't know, but I may have been drugged that night because I blacked out. So I don't know what I talked about, but I do remember apologizing to her the next day, and her telling me that she just forgets that other people don't drink as much as she does, and she's not ready to quit drinking herself. So if I did anything that night, I'm very sorry. I am not a drinker. I don't drink alcohol. I blacked out. I might have been drugged. I'm very, very sorry. Like, I don't even remember what I said. I remember telling the universe that I loved the guy I had been seeing on and off for 2 years, which is true, but I don't want to get into that because that's not, something to talk about right now. But I had also said that while wearing one of my former employer's, bosses at the time, hand-me-down clothing. And if she happened to know him in any way, there's... Anyway, I don't know, but... And... So, I had, I fled. I was homeless for a period of time. I had been about to file, well, I had been trying to file bankruptcy to get myself back on my feet, because essentially after my first divorce, that was what my dad had told me, was that bankruptcy was meant for people like me, because I had cancer, it was the recession, I was having a hard time finding a job, I had just gotten divorced, I had like all of this debt that was because of my ex-husband. So I had filed for bankruptcy once, and then I was like, you know what, I didn't want to file for bankruptcy, but I knew I might have to at one point. I was trying not to, but it got to that point, and that I used the same attorney, and there are other factors going on in my life that prevented things from being filed. Not my choice, his choice, but essentially it's the only reason why I'm here. If he had done his job properly, I wouldn't be here. There were other apartments that had wanted me there. It was just my credit. And my credit would have been okay had he done his job. And that's legitimately the only reason I'm here. It's the only reason my landlord's brother raped me, and it absolutely was rape. I don't think he meant to, because he had been very nice to me, but it did happen. And I'm saying that because I know, I don't know the man, but I also know, like, I don't think he, I don't know. I don't know anymore. Since moving into this house, my head has been so fucked with, because it is a haunted house. It is very haunted, and things, yeah. Like, up until recently, there is a ghost leak. I mean, I found where most of it comes from, but it still, like, leaks on its own. There had been gum in my trash can that came from nowhere. Like, footsteps, cabinets opening and closing, lights turning on and off, screaming, all sorts of stuff. Sorry, give me a second. I'm going to pause this for a moment. Okay, so I don't really remember everything that I talked about, but no, at a certain point, like, I tried to explain to some individuals what was going on, and I tried to, like, let them know they might need attorneys because of certain things that were going on, and I suddenly started being attacked by people telling me to go fuck myself. And a former friend just got mad at me that she herself didn't respond to a text message, essentially, and like started lying, reached out to the individuals who threatened my life, and then started lying. Like, there were a lot of things going on at the end of 2019 that I'm not aware of, but there were a lot of things that other people weren't aware of as well, and like, had it not been for that attorney, I would not be here. Especially since in 2018, I have a movement disorder that seems to be triggered by the cold. And in 2018, I had a 2-hour episode of what it visually looked like a 2-hour seizure. But it was not, it was determined to not be a seizure, but it involved full body flailing. Oh, hello. Including my neck. And I have 3 surgical clips in my neck. Hello. My neck should have been restrained. I should have been laying flat on a stretcher in the emergency room because it had not happened to me. But like what I was experiencing was new. That did not happen, and I spent 2 hours with my head flopping all over the place. There were lots of witnesses. It was so bad it actually impacted. I had been hired by a former employer as a contract worker to do a data conversion project, and I couldn't do it because of whatever, like, I was not okay after it. And I was actually targeted by the brother of my landlord. I had met him on Tinder, which I was using not really to date, but to like relearn social skills post-divorce, if that makes sense. And I had no intention of meeting him, but a former friend actually kept like she wanted me to date him, and I didn't understand why. But there had been like a lot of weird stuff. Like when he first texted me, my phone started playing a song that was not in my iTunes library that I had never heard before. It was very strange. Hi, Ruby. I made note of it. But my phone later showed signs of being hacked, so I don't know if I don't know whether or not it was related. But no, like I didn't have plans to meet him or plan to meet him. I actually had been trying to distance myself. And then I had this cognitive episode, and he just kind of like, it's like, well, now I think we should meet now. And I was not in the place to make proper decisions. It was not psychiatric. It was from the head trauma. That's my assumption. I don't know exactly, but I do remember that it happened, and I had to. Because of what it happened, I had to withdraw from the work project, and then I ended up working for a company that I wouldn't have worked for, and now I'm here. And I need to say that because that particular company, there was a coworker who he kind of raped me. Basically, I invited him to a concert because I had an extra ticket, and he was in the music industry, and he had booked the hotel. I already had an Airbnb room, but I was going to be okay with, like, I thought I was going to sleep on the floor because I sleep on the floor normally. Hi, Ruby. So, I even wore a shirt that night to bed that said 0 fucks given, because it meant like that I am not having sex with you. I'm giving 0 fucks. And he just picked me up and put me on his dick. He followed my office manager on Instagram. She claims she didn't know him, but she was like really happy. I had tried to play it off that I was on a date. I was not on a date. I was very detached and dissociated to the point where I ended up I ended up seeing him a second time, like a month later, and being so dissociated and so detached from reality that I ended up with rug burn on my knees so bad. I didn't properly care for myself, and I ended up going to the urgent care where I was not properly treated by the doctor who didn't understand what was going on. Thankfully, there may be a nurse and an insurance agent, provided they are still around and not affected by COVID, that would be able to prove this story, what happened. But no, like, it was rape. I tried to play it off that it wasn't. It was rape. He had, prior, like, after I moved into this house, he had toured the property because he claimed he wanted to move in, and be a roommate. So I was like, okay, and he came over, and it was weird. Like, he acted really strange. But I don't know him well, so I was just like, okay. And then he came back to look at it a second time and brought a bottle of wine and food for me. And it was very strange for me because it was almost like he thought we were going to have sex. And I basically was like, no. Like, I thought you were looking at this as an apartment to move into. So he left. But when he left, there had been gum that, like, magically appeared in my trash can. And, I need to say that he claimed it wasn't his gum. I had just changed the garbage bag. But, the other day, I had a realization, and it was that, there were a lot of people who were, like, it almost seemed like they were trying to discredit me, or trying to prevent me from reporting my former employers, trying to prevent me from reporting my first husband for, basically, I needed to hand something in over to authorities. And in doing so, there were certain steps that I had to take, and people started attacking me. Hi, Ruby. I'm sorry, I've just gotten... I've totally lost that again. I'm on my medication, and I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. I probably wouldn't have if I wasn't on it. But... Hi, Ruby. So, basically, it occurred to me the other day, one of the people who was stalking me was my ex-husband's, the woman that he may have been having an affair with, or at least, he does not necessarily believe in the law. And I don't think he understands that we would have gone through this with attorneys had I known my legal rights. And I would have gotten everything, regardless as to whether or not I wanted it, just as a matter of fact of how bad he psychologically abused me, and the fact that the very first thing I did when we left the courthouse was Google my legal rights as a married woman, because he told me I didn't have them anymore because he legally owned me. I don't think he understands that, because he allowed me to stay on his health insurance, but in 2010, when I was diagnosed with cancer, he offered to marry me so I could get on his health insurance. For whatever reason, he had been trying. I had not been in a healthy place, but we would not have gotten married to begin with. We would not have dated to begin with had I been in a healthy place. When he approached me in 2013, we reconnected. And then I reached out to him New Year's Eve because I didn't want to go to a concert by myself. And he ended up inviting me down with his friends. And I had just left a cycle, like, I had been repeating these patterns that I was trying to get out of, and it was the individuals who had been in my life, who interjected themselves in my life in 2019 and early 2020. Those are the people who, had they actually cared about me, I wouldn't be here to begin with. Okay? So why they were involved in my life then, I don't know. But had I had their support and actual friendship, I would not have dated John. I would not have dated, I would not have moved to South Jersey. I would not have given up an entire life, entire career. I would not have done that. And I need to be very clear about that. Especially, but it happened. It happened, and I'm very sorry that it seemed to upset people, including his ex, who apparently at one point in time had made a fake Facebook page to catfish me and stalk me and talk to me for several years. That's what John told me. It could have been John. I don't know if it was his ex and he was just blaming her, or if he made that fake page to stalk me, because he claimed that she was afraid that he was going to leave her for me, and I was married at the time. Now, he is aware that I was part of well, I don't know. I don't know. When the former coworker was here the second time, and he, like, brought a bottle of wine, so I had been ignoring him for the entire year, like, because I had recognized it, like, I was just not comfortable with him, but I was, like, trying to pretend that it wasn't what it was, and so the other day, I explained something to someone regarding my ex-husband, and one of the things I told him, and I don't think he believed me, so basically his mother had been for many years a special education teacher in Atlantic County, and so she doesn't know how he and I even met. I just want to be very clear with that. And we met on a website in the early 2000s that was a dating website that allowed children on it. He was either 18 or 19, and I was 16. But his mother remarried. So his father was very abusive, and his dad died several years ago. It is not that I don't care for him, because, for many years, I don't know him, and that's the reality, is that he had fantasized about me for 14 years. He had fantasized about a 16-year-old widow he made up in his own head for 14 years. And then when I was finally myself, he hated me. Like, when I moved in, he didn't want me. His mother remarried, and her second husband is heir to the Wrigley Gum fortune. That's what my ex told me. I don't know. I don't know, but I've been having some intuition telling me that it's time that people really do take this seriously, because some of the things my ex's mother detailed about her day-to-day work with special needs children, some of it was actually physical violence towards the children to get them to behave. Things that might be considered abuse. And we're talking about nonverbal black children in Atlantic County. And, like, physical restraint and shaking children or screaming at them, and she would talk about how she would get results with her kids, and what she would do were things that are considered abuse. at least, you know, at a certain point in time they were, if I'm remembering correctly. But the psychological, like, there are supposed to be laws and things in place to protect these children, and it's almost like she may, I don't know if she was targeting them because of, like, I don't know, because I don't know her and I don't know him. So I need to be very clear. I'm sharing that right now because I have been getting signs from the universe the last several days that it's time to talk about this. And the other day, it was specific to, sorry, so I've been driving Uber and Lyft to try and get out of this situation, and I had a passenger who shares the same name as his, my ex's mother's husband's granddaughter, and that's one of the things that, sorry, I can feel. I'm sorry. So I had, since the potential stroke, I like half of my like my one side of my face does weird things now. So I'm sorry. I have been trying to get an attorney since the moment I moved in here, and for some reason my mother had people convinced that I didn't need one. While I was in the middle of a lawsuit, an estate case that I have not had legal representation for the entire time, that I needed legal representation for, not just for that, but to renegotiate my divorce settlement, my divorce agreement, because I left without anything, and I gave up everything for him, and I haven't been able to get back on my feet, not because of myself, but other people. In part, obviously, myself, like, I'm not putting the blame on everybody. I've been working on myself and doing everything I can. So don't think that that's not what I'm doing, and I apologize if that's, but sorry again, I am on my legally prescribed medication. This was like, my ex hated me on my medication. So I ended up getting into this situation. My landlord's brother kept trying to get me to be a stripper, and I was just kind of like, no. I kept telling him no. I was promised work, Lord, with an offer of work. He actually raised the rent by $300 when he found out that I was spending as much money as I was on my medication, because I have other medical expenses as well. He raised the rent. He promised me work, and then when I moved in, sight unseen, he then came into the house and told me that he was going to, he wanted to subcontract me out at a higher rate, so that I could make more money and he could make some money off me. And then, like, the habitability, like, there are broken windows in this house, there are habitability issues, that the heater wasn't set up, and when I asked him to fix the heater, and I have a movement disorder that is triggered by the cold, and his response was, my brother didn't keep you warm? And it's just like, I keep telling you I'm not in a relationship with your brother. I'm sorry. I have been trying to explain, there are complications in this situation. And I've been trying to explain for 2 years. And I'm not going to get into them right now. what I'm gonna do. So one of the not good. Maybe I will. I'm debating right now. So when I moved into this house, one of the things I had been trying to do was at one point start a tarot channel on YouTube. I've been doing tarot since 14, primarily for myself and close friends. But I had been considering doing a YouTube channel. There were several people I listened to and would watch. One of the individuals who is kind of involved in the situation, because eventually I started asking people for my paintings back, and paintings that, you know, I gave away for free or people did pay for, but I would pay them. I started asking for my paintings back because I don't want them to be in existence anymore. And I had, she just blocked me. She's like, I'm blocking you now, and blocked me. This individual told me she didn't think I would be able to survive if I did it. Like, she didn't think I could make a living. And there are people who do. And it's just like, why can't I start a business? Like, you even suggested that I do a reading for your friend, and I did, and it was actually a very accurate reading for your friend. And I'm being guided to possibly pull like 1 or 2 cards right now, and not go into detail, but just to see, you know, it was like, I called my mother and her husband out on their racism, and she blamed it on me. And it's likely because she sees people who are not conservative Christians as the enemy. And I'm not the enemy. I'm not. If we need to understand that while each of us has the right to our own beliefs, our own practices, those beliefs and practices and things ultimately impact how we interact with other people. And if we view someone as an enemy, and we see that person as an enemy, but then go out into the world and pretend that, and our job is to, let's say, in this particular case, preach to this community and be a pillar of leadership and support for people that you don't see as human, and you don't think that that your personal beliefs about them for your political and religious belief, like, it's not going to impact. Like, there needs to be an understanding that yes, there's a connection, and no means no. I had basically, like, my mom, like, lost her mind that I was leaving her when I don't know what she was been telling people for all of these years. I have had to keep myself silent just to make her happy, because that's how I was raised, to not talk, to not stand up for myself. Because the moment when I stand up for myself, she suddenly starts screaming, that's not my daughter, I'm on drugs. I tried to explain to her a certain part of the situation, and it's, you know, I'm gonna stop. This is already over an hour long. I don't know who's gonna watch it. I'm like conflicted as to whether or not to even do any tarot after what I experienced after living in this house. Like, my mom wouldn't stop praying for me, and it was almost like someone was trying to force me to accept a God that is not my God. And it was one of the most fucked up experiences, because God and I were good. I will not ever be the same person again. And whatever the fuck they were using is not God. Like, whatever thing was going on, like, whether it's the haunting of this house, whether it was my mother's prayers There was a particular point I was in this house, and it was like somebody kicks me from behind my legs to try and force me to my knees to accept Christ. I'm not even joking. And it's just like, no. And this is not meant to be an attack on Christianity. This is not meant to be an attack on my mother. I had called her out because she and her husband are racists. You don't ask someone, how is church? And the response being, good for the white people, and not expect it to be about race. Because it's about race at that point if you say it is good for the white people because I felt like I was in the Caribbean. There are people who might not have believed me or just didn't want to deal with it, but I'm sorry, there are other people who have the right to know. I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I did report it to 3 individuals, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened. I needed an attorney. How she convinced people that I needed a therapist. I needed an attorney. I needed to renegotiate my divorce. I have medical malpractice claims. I have a whistleblower case. What was she doing that she impacts the entire legal system? The entire legal system. What was she doing that it was more important about her feelings? What did she think was going on with my life? I intentionally kept her out of it because I needed to put up boundaries. I am the kind of person, with my mother, we don't get along. And it's likely because she's seen me as a threat. And because I'm not the child she's wanted, because I'm not a conservative Christian. I had told her that my relationship with God is between me and God. And it was like a light flicked in her eyes. And she was like, you don't want to be saved? And then, go ahead and try to leave her. I'm sorry. There are the people who enabled her, who don't know me, have I'm sorry. I'm going to take a deep breath. No, I've been trying to find attorneys. The problem is that because I did not go for alimony, or not that I didn't go for, I didn't really know to accept alimony because I thought there were other things going on, and I had been basically not believing that I'm a person. I am a person. I am a human being. And my former job being within legal and law, I'm very concerned that, like, when we see people who view the world differently than us as enemies, like, that's a problem. My mom, I haven't spoken to her in over a year. I had actually had to file a restraining order against her at one point last year, because of the fact that she would not stop. I have tried to report this to multiple agencies. It's almost like people don't believe me at this point. And it's very concerning, because this is very real. This is very real. And I had a stroke in 2019, and I'm sorry that there were other things going on that impacted how I was communicating, including people stalking me, including exes, including people who owe my exes money, including someone who made Instagram accounts with usernames pretending to be me. There were things going on outside of my control that other people don't know about. And I cut people out to protect them, but also for some people, I didn't want them in my life because they're toxic. But no, like, there were legitimately people stalking my Instagram account to the point where potentially looking at all of my friends' accounts and looking after them. To the point I tagged someone in a post. She got a message from one of my stalkers wanting to know if she was safe because I tagged her. Like, excuse me. I'm not going to get into... There are a lot of things that I need to get into details and things that need to be discussed that I'm not going to. I'm not gonna pull cards right now. I don't think it's appropriate. Hi, Stormy. Stormy wants to say hello. Hi. I love you. Okay. So yeah. So I'm gonna stop. It's an hour and 20 minutes. I'm still looking for like, I've been looking for employment. How there are supposed to be laws in place to protect whistleblowers. I could not stay employed. It was not safe for me to continue employment at that business. There are supposed to be laws in place regarding retaliation. And it's almost like people aren't doing anything because it means they themselves have to change because of how much it impacts the legal industry. And the reality is, I would not be here if I had had a divorce attorney, because I would have kept my job. I would have discussed with them the issues that I had that were HR related, but I would have kept my job, I would have kept my house, I would have kept all of my kids, I would have kept my car. I would not be here. And this is very important because my mother, who happens to be involved with the church, with people who she herself discriminates against, doesn't believe that I'm a human being or that I had those legal rights to those things to begin with. I do. And I'm saying this because if she has counseled or helped anyone that was going through a divorce or a breakup and given them wrong advice because she herself does not believe you are a human being, you are a human being and you have rights. And I don't think she understands. I came to the realization that my high school boyfriend, who was a Jehovah's Witness who ended up committing suicide by an overdose after being admitted to a rehab that she forced him into by using church money, because that was the only way she would let him date her daughter, was if he went to a rehab that her church sent him to. That his family may actually have a lawsuit against her because he committed suicide after being forced to that rehab. And I don't think she understands that I absolutely will hold her 100% accountable, because it was all entirely her ego. What if he didn't want to continue a relationship with me? And why was his dating me contingent on going to a rehab she picked out? Or she herself funded? And I remember her talking through the church group to try and get this money because she felt bad that his family was poor and their insurance. She is elitist, and I'm not slandering. I am building a background because it is important to understand when someone is within a position of power within a community, especially when she doesn't see herself as within a position of power, but she is a treasurer, and for the last several parts of her career, she did internal auditing for an insurance company. If she does not understand that her biases can absolutely cause discrimination issues that need to be addressed at a later point in time, and we cannot, but like, I'm sorry, I'm not, and this is just it was not about my mom, and it became about my mom. It was not about my mom. I'm very sorry. I'm gonna stop. No, I will always hold myself accountable for my actions, and I had someone come into my house and tell me that I needed to forget things, and that I would never see the only person I ever considered having children with again, and just like, no, guys, I don't, what's going on, guys? she then asked me if I trusted my ex-husband. This is a person who, we had been friendly and maintained connection, but we weren't friends. We have not been friends in many, 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 many years. If she has been in communication with my ex-husband, that's a huge problem. I'm very sorry for what she was going through at that particular point in time. But had I known the only reason I was invited to her sister's wedding was because her mother didn't want her having sex with people, I would not have gone. I was house sitting. I had other things to do. If I knew I was invited because they needed a babysitter, why would I have been there? Why? I was there because I was concerned. Like, it was nice to... I was informed that it was because people canceled and they didn't want to waste money. And then when I got there, I was informed it was because I was a babysitter. No, I would not have gone. And I'm really sorry for what you're going through. And I'm really, really sorry for everything that's been going on. But if you needed help, all you need to do is ask. Not go through my shit and act like you were keeping stuff and threaten me, and I'm sorry, like, my mistake for asking her if she wanted to share her story, my mistake in 2019. Again, I was homeless, and I had a vision of being pulled out of the trunk of a car with a gun to my head. At the time, I didn't know that it wasn't a vision of me. That I was... Now, again, I am an intuitive medium. For my entire life, I have experienced very faint... Like, people come to me when they die. This is not the first time. This has happened many, like, for the entirety of my life. And I've explained this to... I don't know if people believe me, but I've told them before. Sorry, there was a reason I brought that and I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So the vision that I had was actually someone else's death. But it's the reason why I did not sleep in my car during my period of homelessness, as opposed... I would have slept in my car. I stayed with her mom briefly. I would not have. It was safer for me at the motel I was staying at. I did not sleep in my car because of the fact that it was an automatic key, and if I was inside the car, then anyone outside the car could open it, because the key is in the car, within, you know, so it's not safe to do that, but, thank you for watching this. I'm terrified because it's almost like people don't recognize the fact that my mother is now 70. She may have dementia, or at least at one point in time she had signed up for a clinic, a memory study clinic, because she was recognizing signs of memory loss. Her memory-related issues are repressed trauma-related, in part, at least. At least that I recognize that with her, because I had trauma-related memory repression, but also from watching television. I can't watch television. it turns me into a zombie. Or you know, use social media or the internet. Like I have to be technology free outside of a workplace environment, because it messes with my head. And I think, like, sorry, I'm fidgety right now. Like, people forget that we're not supposed to be spending the majority of our days watching television. People forget because we don't know these things about our species, because we burned a bunch of books and destroyed a bunch of artifacts. In an attempt to, you know, control the situation, essentially. Sorry, I know how that sounds, especially since I can't find the appropriate words because of my aphasia. But history has a tendency to repeat itself, and over the course of the last several thousand years, you know, we have destroyed so much what would be education, what would be knowledge. We've destroyed it in an attempt to control and manipulate others, when we might have destroyed ourselves because we've lost that knowledge and forgotten and forced ourselves to focus on only one thing. Almost like stuff is going on around us that we're not aware of because we put blinders, like with my mom, I put my blinders on. I don't know what she was telling people that I was doing or why I was there. For a while, like, she thought she would be hired if I took her with me to work, and I don't know why. Like, it's like she regressed into thinking I was a child and that she was going to be returning to the workplace. And it's just like, but you have a job and you're in retirement. I'm sorry, this has gotten very, very much distracted, and I have attempted many times to report hate crimes that were not involving her, but she, like, may have interfered with that too. I don't know. There's been a lot going on. Thankfully, I finally felt safe enough to leave the house to work a steady job. Once it became an eviction, like, I couldn't leave the house to make money to pay my rent. That was what was going on. Almost like, and the fact that people don't recognize this as trafficking, it's like forcing someone into a position where they have to take up sex work or they have to live on this, like, it's trafficking. And I'm really sorry that my brother has a cybersecurity company and my mother maybe has convinced him that I'm lying. But no, this has been human trafficking. And what is concerning is that she may have been impacted by her husband and his political beliefs and possibly even things like subliminals to such a degree that her ego impacted her decision-making skills, in that not understanding that what was going on would impact her son, and not just her son, but the security of the entire country, not just the entire country, but the planet, really, because of his involvement with cybersecurity, and the fact that I've been in a human trafficking situation that she made worse by calling the police on me to hold me hostage in my house because she claimed it was for my health, when really the posts and things that I were posting were like, please do not let my stalkers have my dog and cat if I die. That is not a cop-worthy call. That is a note. I'm telling you, these people are involved in the situation here and stalking me. Make sure they don't get my pets. Like, I've tried filing with the police. The police had told me no, and now I need an attorney to work with the police at all, and I haven't been able to find an attorney. Not because there isn't an attorney that wants to work with me, it's because I don't have the money to do so, because I fled without alimony, And it took me a year to finally find a job, and then the majority of my income went to medical expenses and feeding myself. Like, and I don't think a lot of people who were in contact with my first husband understand that I never would have married him. I would not have gone on a date with him had he not triggered me into going into a date with him. I would not have married him. I did not want to marry him. And that he is the only reason I went bankrupt. He owes me. He owes the banks at least $70,000. At least $70,000. He owes my parents at least $4,000. His parents owe my parents for the wedding because I didn't want to get married. He owes at least $4,000 because that is how much more the wedding cost, because he invited an extra 50 people after we had already gotten a quote from the catering company. Like, I can prove that I only went bankrupt because of him. Okay? The majority of the debt was on a Nordstrom card I would not have had he not insisted I quit the job I was working at to work with his sister at Nordstrom because they thought I would make more money. I did not make more money. I would have stayed at the other company. Sorry, I'm now ranting. I don't mean to rant. This is an hour and a half. I need to stop. I just don't know. I don't know what lies have been spread, what's been going on, especially since I used the wrong word. I have aphasia, and I used the wrong word with my mom in a text exchange, and in some Instagram posts. It is what it is, but, like, sorry. I'm gonna stop now. I have to work on an appeals brief. Because the judge made his decision based on the opposite of the law. He said one thing when the law is the exact opposite of it. But it involves a situation. I have to work on appealing, or not appealing, but filing motions regarding my landlord suing me for rent that he's owed, that he's being paid through, or at least it's been applied for him to be paid through the emergency rental payment program. But, like, I've been spending like $100 to $150 a day renting cars, and on fuel and tolls, and to try and get out of this. I made a decent amount of money last year. It's just that all of it goes to business expenses. I don't know how I'm going to pay my taxes. I feel so bad that the tax guy is, like, I haven't responded to his messages, and I'm not intentionally trying to avoid him. I just don't know how, like, most weeks I make enough to pay for the car, and how am I've been trying to find other employment, but it's like, people don't believe me, or they don't want to be involved, and there are supposed to be, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop, I'm sorry. I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be alive. I shouldn't be complaining. Sorry. I recognize where I'm going. I need to bring myself back down. And remember, again, I am on my medication. Also, when I get passionate like that is when, like, my ex hated it. I was allowed to respond to him and be talked at, but when I would get, so I'm bringing myself back down right now. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you, and if anyone watching this is able to assist in any way, whether it be with legal or one of my biggest issues, it's been that I'm still living in the house where I was raped and all of this happened. And also, aside from not having had the opportunity to discuss this with anyone, really, I I hope that if anyone out there who has my artwork hadn't previously understood why I want to destroy and get rid of all my artwork, I hope that they understand. But yeah. I I'm grateful that I have documented a lot of the last 2 years, but thank you for watching. I appreciate you.